end zone in that timeout.
I was 7 years old watching a football game by myself, and I saw those winged helmets come out of the tunnel, and I was hooked at that point.
Hayden, Chicago! Oh my God! Hayden with the overtime winner!
Jahmyr Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
He drives, lobs to JD for a jam.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6'6" Kane Cunningham. Jameson Williams, he's got it. Touchdown, Lions. Now it's Larkin with a burst of speed. He scores. Gives the United States the lead for the first time tonight.
Need a little Dylan Larkin tonight, that's for sure, when the Red Wings get back on the schedule in Pittsburgh, who played last night. We'll get to that coming up here on X's and Bros. Welcome, everybody, on a Tullymore Tuesday. Glad you're with us. We're brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth here in the first hour. The Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. The text line is Sports Radio 21,000. You can also jump into the chat as we stream live on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook as well. I'm Matt Shepard. Trent Bally is with us as well. If you didn't stay up late last night, I can understand why, but the Pistons did everything they possibly could to win the game. Whistles were a little interesting, weren't they? Oklahoma City needed overtime to beat them. Detroit had a really good second half. Their first half stunk. Their second quarter was awful, but their third and their fourth quarter was rock solid. You do this without four starters. Four. There's no Cade Cunningham, as you know. There's no Jalen Duren, as you know. There's no Duncan Robinson. Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench, not there. Tobias Harris wasn't in the lineup. You do this with Paul Reed. You do this. Sar Thompson was the only starter out there. 6 Pistons reached double figures. Reed was fantastic. 21 points, 10 rebounds, right? Detroit hit 16 triples on the night. Here's their issue. 12 of 23 from the free throw line. Here's the other issue, and this is more than just a Pistons issue. This is an NBA issue. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went to the free throw line more times by himself than the entire Pistons team. Pistons team went 23 times. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went 25 times. He had 47 points. Look, the dude is an awesome player. I've always liked him. Getting to the point right now where it's starting to piss me off a little bit so much that I don't like him any longer. I don't know if you watched the game against the Knicks on Sunday. Look, OKC's playing the tail end of a back-to-back. Those supposedly, according to Steve Kerr, according to Rick Carlisle, all this stuff has got to change, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous how often they're playing games. NHL, let's add 2 games. NFL, let's add a game. NBA, let's cut 10 games. You tell me what makes sense, okay? None of it is what makes sense. Anyway, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander against the Knicks the other day, he kicks out his leg. Josh Hart never touched him, and yet he gets an and one. Last night, I'm not saying he wasn't fouled at all. 25 free throws? Here's what's happened in the last 2 games for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has, by himself, outshot from the free throw line the Pistons and the Knicks, or close to it. The Knicks had 17 free throw attempts on Sunday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 16. So it was close. Last night, as I mentioned, 25 for him, 23 for the Detroit Pistons. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out there taking more free throws, not than the opponent's best player, than the entire team sometimes. So it's a little frustrating watching that. And of course, the entire look at what this guy is and all this other stuff. And now you start to get to wonder a little bit about, like, if he's the MVP and he's going to win it again, he is. You know, I firmly believe this. I thought Cade Cunningham, when healthy, before the collapse lung, was going to win the MVP, or was worthy. Let's put it that way, was worthy. Then there got to a point where, like, okay, the groundswell of the defending MVP is too much to overcome because the national media was all in unison with it. And when the national media is all in unison with it, usually there's something afoot, right? That was the case. To their credit, the Thunder has won 15 of 16, and they've got 60 wins. First time in franchise history they've had back-to-back seasons of 60 wins or more. They're going to be a really tough team to beat, and I know what we're going to say. And when I say we, I put me in there too. Collectively, we're going to say, look at how good we were. We forced that team to overtime, even though we were without 4 starters. I would remind you that OKC team came into Little Caesars and opened up a proverbial can on the Pistons without 4 of their starters. Okay, actually without 5 of their starters, including Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Michigan women's season has come to an end. They get rolled by Texas, 77-41 in the Elite Eight in Fort Worth. Wolverines finished the year 28-7. Arizona roughed up Justin Verlander. Now, this is we're not getting hyperbolic here, okay? We're not trying to go too high because of how good Cole Keith has been, and he had 2 more hits last night. So he's batting, like 450, you guys. It's 4 games in, and we're not going to get too concerned over Jack Flaherty the other day, even though I'm not a huge fan, and over Justin Verlander yesterday. You throw 28 pitches in the first inning, it's going to be a short night no matter what. He needed 80 pitches to get through 3 2/3 innings. That's a bit of a problem, all right? Not that you're on a pitch count, but when you're spiking your slider, you're spiking just about everything. You're spiking your changeup, for crying out loud, is what he was doing. It was a constant blocking drill for Dylan Dingler. 9-6 the final, Arizona wins it. So as high as Detroit was for the first 2 games, and who wouldn't be, because they looked really good. Their offense was outstanding, right? Their offense did come alive last night when they finally got to the Arizona bullpen a little bit, because they sure couldn't do anything with Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka struck out a career-high 10 batters, but Detroit finally got to the bullpen in the 7th with 6 runs, putting that up on the board. I'm afraid this is going to become almost like a theme for us every single game. We're going to chart what certain guys do. Kevin McGonigal. First 2 games, it was unbelievable. The guy's a hitting machine. The guy's going to hit 400. The guy's the second coming of Tony Gwynn. This is what all Tigers fans were saying. And this is why I warned people prior to the season, just relax for a moment. He's going to have ups. He's going to have downs. It's okay. Doesn't mean you send him down to Toledo. It doesn't mean he's broken. It just means that he's a baseball player, because it happens. All right. Look at Kerry Carpenter right now. I mean, Trent, last year, you and I, how many calls did we field? How many texts did we read about Kerry Carpenter's got to play every day? It was constant. Leads the team in strikeouts with 10. It happens. Okay. It's the first 4 games, man. That's it. But Kevin McGonigal yesterday goes 0 for 2. So as good as he was in the first 2 games, the last 2 games, he hasn't been able to collect a hit. Okay? But he did walk twice. And that's what I told you about him. I told you he's going to put bat to ball, and he's going to get on base. He's got some sneaky power, but he's going to get on base. He got on base twice, scored a run. Went 0 for 2, but was on base twice. That's okay. I'll take that from a 21-year-old. Not every night, but I'll take that. 9-6 was the final. Corbin Carroll, good young player. Maybe he's not young anymore. Really good player for Arizona. Belts a 3-run homer, had an RBI triple, paced an 11-hit attack. Cole Keith, Riley Green each had a couple of hits. Casey Mize gets the call for game 2 of the series tonight. We'll talk more about that as we move forward. Some problems with the Red Wings and their reaction to what their head coach had to say. We're going to get to all that coming up here on a very busy morning here on X's and Bros. Super excited for 8:35. Mike Williams is the Grand Valley State women's basketball coach. They just won their 2nd consecutive national championship. Dude's an unreal coach. He's going to join us at 8:35 to brag about the Lakers, and rightfully so, as we roll on a Tully Moore Tuesday.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Avelo Air knows how much you love the Tigers. They love them too. They want to help you get to spring training in Lakeland because it is an awesome time. They fly nonstop from Grand Rapids to Lakeland Thursdays and Sundays, and nonstop from Detroit to Lakeland Wednesdays and Saturdays. Everyday low fares and reliable service. You don't want to fly anywhere else. Book your trip to Lakeland on AveloAir.com and use the promo code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare when you book by March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
A lot of controversy in the NBA. We'll broach it coming up here on X's and Bros. Not afraid to go there. It's okay. We have some conversation. It's always good for everybody to get involved in that regard and be willing to, call anybody out who you think may be in need of calling out. Okay, for sure. We can do that here on X's and Bros. Welcome back. We are throughout the state of Michigan, 6 till 9, Monday through Friday. The Red Wings have a big game tonight. I mean, I suppose every game down this stretch is big, all right? They're visiting Pittsburgh. Neither team really playing all that well, although Pittsburgh played really well last night. They beat the Islanders 8-3. 4 points separate the two teams in the East. Detroit is 2 points back to the final wild card in the conference. 2 games to keep an eye on. Boston's going to host Dallas tonight. All right, so Boston is one of those teams Detroit is kind of chasing. They're in the first wild card spot. Columbus welcomes Carolina. I mean, on paper, Dallas should win and Carolina should win. Columbus is the team Detroit is chasing for the second wild card. Those are a couple of things that, I want you to just, if you're going to watch hockey tonight, pay attention to it. All right, just keep one eye on the standings, one eye on the scoreboard, and one eye on your Red Wings and Penguins. Here's the Mitch Lions Wealth poll question for you. I think it's a good one. Who are you most excited to watch make their home debut? Which Tigers player are you most excited to watch make their home debut? All right. Is it Kevin McGonigal? Is it Justin Verlander? Is it Tarek Skubal? Or is it Kenley Jansen? I know. You're shaking your head at the last one. But he's been pretty good so far. The reason you put that up there is because many people feel like McGonigal is the future of this team, along with Max Clark and Bryce Rayner and Max Anderson and players like that. Verlander is that old guard at age 43, and it could be his final home start or final first home start of his career as a Tiger, and Tarek Skubal for obvious reasons. All right. So those are the 4 names we gave you. Vote as often as you want. We're going to put it up on social on our X account at XB Mornings. I'll retweet it. And we will go from there. There is and give you the results tomorrow. Interesting article about everybody likes to get ahead of the game for some reason or another. But you got to fill space on various websites. So I get it. World Series contender tiers. It's pretty clear. It should be by now. Just ask Arizona, who lost all 3 games to the Dodgers in the first series of the season. And the Dodgers had to come back in all 3 games, by the way. The Dodgers are the top tier 1. And then there's everybody else. So ESPN.com breaks down these various tiers. They have different criteria that we don't necessarily have to get into. But there's the Dodgers in tier 1. There's a tier 2. There's a tier 3. We're saying they have a chance. There is a tier 4 for ESPN as well, and that is wait until next year. And then tier 5, 2 years away at least. The Tigers are in tier 2. And tier 2 is their time could be now. The Mets are part of it. The Phillies are part of it. This is really impressive company because I think the Phillies are really good. I think the Mets are good. Of course, I thought they were good a year ago. You knew Atlanta was going to be better. Seattle's damn good. They're in there. The Cubs are in there. Anybody spend more money than the Cubs? Not that I can recall in the offseason. And no team in the American League spent more than the Toronto Blue Jays, over $300 million in the offseason. Boston, Baltimore, and Houston. Those are all the teams that are in tier 2. Yankees, too, as well. The Tigers, they have ranked as 7th. Overall, 7th in Major League Baseball. Percentage to win a championship, 6.2%. Okay. Win average at 88.5. Would you take the over or would you take the under at 88.5 wins? Can we just say 89 because there's no flipping half? What would it take to win the division? couple of years ago, it's over 90. This year, because I think Kansas City's pretty good, it might take you 89, 90. There's a reason they have it. I'd take the over. I'd probably go 90 wins. And in the playoffs, at about 70%. The temperature, they put down temperature and pivotal number. I don't have to explain the temperature. It's not worth it. But the pivotal number they write is 742. And that's the combined number of career wins for Justin Verlander and saves for Kenley Jansen. They are the active career leaders in both those categories. They are also now both members of the Tigers pitching staff, but this is not a look at the famous old dude we signed situation. Detroit needs these guys to produce because the Tigers seem like a team very close to getting over the top. You've got to love that the two Tigers who will be most closely watched early this season, one Verlander, turns 43 in February, and almost exactly twice as old as the other rookie shortstop, Kevin McGonigal, who turns 22 in August. I think that's fair. I'm usually not on board with what a lot of the national websites say about our teams, but I definitely think that's on. Those are the two guys most people are watching closely. They are watching Kevin McGonigal and Justin Verlander, and it leads back to our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. That's why I asked, who are you most excited to watch make their home debut? It will be very interesting to try and gauge when everybody is introduced on Friday, downtown Detroit, who gets a louder ovation. Justin Verlander because he's back, or Kevin McGonigal because he's finally up. And by the way, we want to send you there. We got the ultimate VIP sports package this Thursday at Ascend inside Soaring Eagle. Our friend Bill Simonson, The Huge Show, outstanding work, 3 to 7, Monday through Friday. He's going to broadcast live. You show up, you sign up, and you get a chance to go to Tigers opening day. You'll stay the night at Soaring Eagle. The next day, you're taken to Comerica Park for the Tigers opening day game. You'll spend the night in Metro Detroit. Saturday morning, you'll wake up fresh and ready to go. Probably need some coffee after the day before, if you know what I mean. And you're going to take a private plane to Indianapolis. You and a friend are going to watch the Final Four. You're going to watch UConn and Illinois square off. And then you're going to watch Michigan take on Arizona. And then you'll fly back, spend the night in Metro Detroit, and then get back to Soaring Eagle. It's a hell of a VIP sports package. All you got to do is show up at Soaring Eagle, Ascend, Thursday, 3 to 7. Enjoy a burger there, have a cold one, do whatever it is, and you'll have an absolute blast. That is this Thursday, so make sure you check that out. All right? Okay, there is a concern for the Pistons, but it's a little odd on what this concern has. I was just talking about ESPN and the article. It didn't come to fruition last night, but it is understandable. But it's a little strange on who the biggest problem they might have moving forward in postseason play. I think a lot of people would be encouraged with the way the Pistons performed last night. I guess there's a part of you that could be really enlightened by how the Tigers responded. Down 8-0, scoring 6 times in the 7th, making things uncomfortable for people in Arizona who were in search of their first win. But you came up short. Both teams came up short. But there's reason to look at a glass half full for both teams. But especially the Pistons. We'll talk about that when we come back here on X's and Bros. We're glad you're with us on a Tullymore Tuesday, and we're brought to you this hour by Mitch Lyons Wealth at MitchLyonsWealth.com.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now, they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also, Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
You know, when we look at core teams or the core of teams, especially our teams, which team do you think has the most promising core? I would say the Lions. I would say the Lions because you have at least 6 guys who are top 5 to top 10 at their positions. Jared Goff's a top 10 quarterback. Yes or no? Absolutely. Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a top 5 wide receiver. Sam Laporta is a top 10 tight end. Aiden Hutchinson's a top 10 defensive end. Jack Campbell's a top 5 linebacker. That's pretty damn good. Penny Sewell's a top 5 tackle. Think about it for a minute. Okay. If you'll grant me that, and I hope you will, you follow the team close enough, you probably understand that. Pistons, their core. Cade Cunningham's a top 5 player. Definitely a top 5 guard. Jalen Duren's a top 5 center. Top 10 center. Okay. He's an all-star. He's doing an unbelievable job while Cade Cunningham's been out. I think Detroit's 10-4 without Cunningham. And Duren didn't play last night. He's a difference maker. All right. Asar Thompson's a top 5 defensive player. Doesn't make him a top 5 player, but a top 5 defensive player in the NBA right now. So it's a little more difficult with basketball, I think. Baseball, Tarek Skubel's a top 5 pitcher. Riley Green's a top 7 outfielder. Top 10 outfielder. Top 10 outfielder. Top 5 left fielder, but top 10 outfielder. Outside of that, you're searching just a little bit. Back into the bullpen, right? Kenley Jansen, Will Vest. A lot of teams would like to have those 2 guys, even Kyle Finnegan, coming out of the bullpen late in games. If not closers, 7th or 8th inning. I don't know about Kevin McGonigal. I know you're probably driving or you're listening or you're watching the stream and go, oh, what about Kevin McGonigal? We don't know that yet. All right, so let's be careful. To say he's a top 10 shortstop is ridiculous right now. Maybe soon we can say that. It's going to take an awful lot. Don't you think? It's going to take a lot for us to say that eventually. And I hope we do. But I am not going to do that yet because it's flat out wrong. I'm not putting him in the same conversation as some of the best shortstops in baseball, whether it be Bobby Witt Jr., Corey Seager. Okay, I don't think people in St. Louis are doing that with J.J. Weatherholt yet. But McGonigal's off to a really strong start, which is great. The Red Wings core might not be good enough. They might not be able to handle it. So we'll get into that coming up. All right, we'll do that. It's crazy how some people are overreacting to a coach's criticism. See, you and I can criticize them. Where's the heart? How do you come out slow like this? Don't you realize what's at stake? Stop telling me that you want to make the playoffs or it's the main goal and you're going about your game like this. And then a coach says something and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that publicly. Maybe he's tried privately and it ain't settling in. That could be part of it. Anyway, we talk about the Pistons core group, and it sure seems like it's good enough to be what I would consider, they're going to be the number 1 team in the East. It's not a hot take by any stretch. And quite honestly, it's not necessarily an original take. There's a lot of people who feel that, and rightfully so. If you don't believe that, look at how hard that team played last night, even without 4 starters. I'm not patting them on the back. Everybody deserves some type of participation medal because they lost, but they were up against it. They pushed the best team in basketball to overtime. They have a 4-game lead over the Boston Celtics, who lost to Atlanta last night. Atlanta beat them 112-102, I believe. And Atlanta's playing good basketball right now. Boston's playing decent ball too, just to hang there with Detroit. They still have 50 wins. It's a nice run for the Celtics. to have 50 wins again. But I think Detroit's the best team in the East. They've already clinched a playoff spot. They're not far away from clinching the number 1 overall seed. They've won the division, okay? ESPN came out with the chance at them making the Eastern Conference semifinals at 77.5%, chance at making the finals of 30.5%, which is a little surprising to me. Thought it might be a little bit higher than that. Anyway, their kryptonite is three-point shooting. Duh. You and I both know that. Although last night they were good enough from 3 to help keep them in the game. They went out there and they knocked down 16 triples. Really important. Here's what they write. You can't argue it. Three-point shooting is the great equalizer in today's NBA. So true. It's a great equalizer in high school. It's a great equalizer in college basketball too, don't you think? You and I both know. Look, Michigan State was a good enough team to reach the Elite Eight. Final Four might be interesting, but there's a lot of things that had to go their way. One of the things that had to go their way is hitting three-point shots. They didn't do it consistently enough. I'm not saying you got to build your team around it, but it does equal things out. It is an important aspect of the game. You may not like it, all right? Just like you may not like the NIL. If you're going to stick your head in the sand and say, damn it, I don't like this three-point shooting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build with size inside and going inside the paint and making tough twos and all this other stuff. I'm going to build my team around not going into NIL. You're going to be left behind. You got to have some guys who can hit some outside shots. The NBA has proven that. College basketball has proven that. Look at the 4 teams who are left. They've got guys who can shoot. And the same thing happens in basketball at the high school level. So it's Detroit. It has been Detroit's kryptonite all season long. I said before the season began, how are you going to make up the amount of threes made by Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr.? If you listen to the show long enough, those are 2 specific things I said before the season began. When they chose to move on from Tim Hardaway Jr., that was a tough one. He doesn't make a ton of threes, but he makes close to 200. Malik Beasley made over 300. How are you going to make up almost 500 triples? You're not doing it with Duncan Robinson. You're not doing it with Karis LeVert. You're doing it with guys who are already on your team. Guys have to elevate their play from the outside. Detroit hadn't been able to do it. They made a lot of threes a year ago. Now, here's your argument. They're better this year than last year. You're right about that. A lot of that has to do with better play from younger players, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland. Better defense, for sure. But the elevation in play of Jalen Duren and even Cade Cunningham is the biggest difference why this team is so much better. And depth. You know, they're much deeper this year than a year ago. Come on. I mean, on your bingo card, did you have Danis Jenkins going out and doing what he's done so far this year? Hell no. You did not have that. And nobody did. I bet you even coaches didn't have that. But it is hard to make that up. It's incredibly challenging when you've got other teams making triples and you're settling for 2. We don't have to do the math together. We know damn well what the biggest challenge is for teams when they have to go through that. Charlotte, why is Charlotte still hanging around? Why are they a concern? Well, they make 16 triples a game. Put it in perspective. Detroit makes 11. Detroit is the 3rd worst in that category. The only teams who make fewer triples per game are the Sacramento Kings and the Dallas Mavericks. Put it in perspective, Detroit a year ago made 13 per game. And that was still below middle of the pack because it was Boston. Now, a lot of people don't like how many they took. Last year, Boston took 48 threes a game. That's nuts, right? You don't like that. Run down, jack up a triple, see if it goes in. Well, it was good enough for Boston to, have 50-plus wins a year ago. So a lot of it is about percentage. I get it. Detroit doesn't take that many threes. In fact, only Sacramento takes fewer triples per game than the Pistons. So maybe, just maybe, this is one of those situations where Detroit is the exception to the rule. Anyway, they write it's about spreading the floor, too. When you have three-point shooters, you can spread the floor. Why has Michigan been so successful? They spread the floor. They can go inside out. And teams have to cover. It's got to be a hard close on a lot of those guys before they bounce and shift to their right, shift to the left, or step inside the arc. That's a hard close on a lot of those guys. Anyway, ESPN says, even with Beasley and Hardaway spreading the floor last season, they were bottom third of the league beyond the arc. Now they're 29th in attempts, 28th in makes. They rely so much on defense creating offense and Cade Cunningham's brilliance in the half court, it feels like an easy bugaboo to point out that the three other contenders, Knicks, Celtics, and Hornets in the East, are all top 10 in makes. You may not want to hear it. The Pistons may not want to hear it. Some people may not even agree with it. It's hard to deny it, though. I do find it, don't you find it interesting that they have pushed the Charlotte Hornets into that conversation? Like, I get the Celtics, I get the Knicks. The Hornets, they're the 10 seed right now in the East. And they're talking about them like they're hot on the heels of the Pistons. Charlotte's 3 games above the break even. They're the other team you're going to use as an example because it fits your narrative. You're going to leave out the Cavaliers? Even Atlanta? Anyway, it continues. Can Kevin Huerter acclimate himself enough to make a difference? Will Duncan Robinson find his movements to create open looks? All fair questions, right? And every team's got this. Every team that they break down has got questions. But here's the interesting thing. Opponents to avoid, Boston and the Knicks. Both have top 5 defenses that are built around taking away the paint and letting opponents fire away from deep. Well, the thing that Detroit has had problems with is allowing teams to shoot threes, and that's why I think the Celtics are the most challenging team. But what's interesting about this is when they write down number 2 in the East as the Boston Celtics, the opponent to avoid, the Pistons. Because if the Celtics don't score in transition, they'll need to maximize their opportunities in the half court. With the New York Knicks, the team to avoid is the Miami Heat. And the Knicks are 3. Cavs are 4, by the way. So it's another interesting indication of why they have them there instead of the Charlotte Hornets. But anyway, I thought to myself, wait a minute, the Knicks and the Miami Heat? Because of why? You don't want to put the Pistons for a second team? The Pistons steamrolled the Knicks, not once, not twice, but 3 times, including a 30-plus point win at Madison Square Garden. Perhaps regular season doesn't mean as much as it used to. Perhaps there's almost no bearing on it whatsoever. I suppose unless you start to talk to Victor Wembanyama, who thinks his team, he should be the MVP because San Antonio beat OKC twice and beat him rather handily. That was part of his MVP type speech or belief on why he's in that conversation. Our phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can always text the program Sports Radio to 21,000. Todd McClellan said something very interesting as his team gets ready for a date with Pittsburgh. We're going to play that sound for you coming up here on X's and Bros. And just wonder aloud. And I know hockey doesn't take off like a lot of sports because, quite honestly, we're just following the puck. Can we easily look at Mo Seider and say just how effective he's been? Yeah, I think he's a really good player. I don't know if he'll ever win a Norris, but he should be in the conversation for that award this year. Okay? I think Simon Edvinson's a really good player. I like Dylan Larkin. Alex DeBrincat's done exactly what you thought he should be able to do when he came here in Detroit, and that's put the puck in the back of the net. Lucas Raymond is a very solid distributor. And then you start to wonder a little bit. And then you start to ask yourself, who else do I need? Who else am I glad we have? How's that? I like Justin Falk. I thought that was a good pickup. Who are the guys that you can't live without? We know there are certain players on other teams you can't live without. No way would you ever want to trade Cade Cunningham. And I think Jalen Duren's developing to that player. I've mentioned a lot of Lions too, okay? I think there's fewer Red Wings than any of, well, maybe outside the Tigers, outside of anybody else. Because the Tigers, you would have said Tarek Skubal, but because of what has transpired since, his bad look at the WBC, and if it's a guy who, you know, it's about staying here, wanting to be here, then why aren't you signing a contract? I think there's more and more fans are starting to get wise to that. I've said it for a while. You constantly tell me, you're harping on me constantly, hey, I want players who want to be here. If he wanted to be here, he could be here by now. All right? I'm not saying take a hometown discount, but if you really want to be here, if you talk about that and you want to take pictures with Tom Izzo and you want to put on a Red Wings jersey and you want to be at Ford Field and get a standing ovation and all these different things, then there are ways you can get that done. But I digress. Perhaps, just perhaps, it's more about the Red Wings and Tigers and how many players you got to have. Maybe there's not as many as I thought. But for the Red Wings, there are too many players right now who are passengers. And what I like most about Todd McClellan is something you may not like about him. And that is his willingness to say, you know what? Something's got to change here. He's not deflecting responsibility. He's just telling you the reality of it. He's telling you exactly what he thinks. Is he telling that to players? I hope so. If he's going to tell us in the media, he better tell the players in the locker room. But I hope you've noticed, especially in the NCAA tournament, we're seeing more and more coaches who are not afraid to turn the clock back and be tough. Tom Izzo, Dan Hurley, Rick Pitino, Dawn Staley. Coaches who are willing to say, you know what? I love this player, and I'm going to show you in a different way. It's not always putting my arm around him. I'll do that. But they've got to learn things too. It's in the open every time we play and begin our program at 6 o'clock. What does Tom Izzo say? That's the American way, except America's gotten soft. He hasn't. Michigan State hasn't. Doesn't mean they always win, but they haven't gotten soft. We're seeing more of that. Todd McClellan is that guy. We're going to talk about that and what he had to say and let you hear it when we come back on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Tuesday, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Well.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLionsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Hey, when you travel, you want low fares, you want reliable service, and you want a direct flight. Avelo Air gives you all of that and more. Avelo Air has direct flights to take Tigers fans to spring training in Lakeland. Avelo Air will take you from Grand Rapids to Lakeland directly on Thursdays and Sundays. They will take you directly from Detroit to Lakeland on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You literally land 20 minutes from the ballpark. You don't have to wait in lines. You don't have to worry about any of that other hassle. This is hassle-free travel like you deserve. Go to AveloAir.com and get $20 off a base fare round-trip flight to Lakeland when you book your trip by March 31st. All you have to do is use the code HUGE, that HUGE, on AveloAir.com. Restrictions do apply. See AveloAir.com for details today.
Thanks for tuning in to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
oftentimes during baseball season, I guess even not baseball season too, but I'll go to MLB.com. Why? I like to look at certain numbers. Not all the time, but I like to look at certain numbers. The reason I go to MLB.com is if you click on the box score, they'll give you the attendance, how popular some team was. And last night, you know what caught my eye? Miami hosting the Chicago White Sox. You got to be a diehard to go there. Guess the attendance in Miami for Marlins White Sox last night. Just take a stab. How many people went to that game? Any idea? I guess you're not going to guess. 6,515. 6,515. That's it. It's a big city, right? For sure. It's a big market. Miami's a big market. Just because the Marlins don't spend, and they spent more in the offseason this year than they usually do, but just because they don't spend doesn't mean it's not a big market. It's a big market. There's a lot of people there. A lot of baseball fans there. Ask the WBC organizers. That's why it was in Miami. Obviously not Marlins fans. 6,500 people. There's more at a women's college basketball game in the Elite Eight than there was for a Major League Baseball game. They can't hold on to a hockey team. I should say that's not necessarily true. When the Panthers win back-to-back Stanley Cups, a lot of people go now. Okay, but before. They struggle attendance-wise with the Dolphins for the most part. It's a bad baseball town. Miami's a bad baseball town. And it's a bad team. I get that. Welcome back. Second hour of the program here on X's and Bros. Glad you are with us. Phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. Text line Sports Radio 21,000. If you missed last night, the Pistons lose in overtime to OKC, 114-110. I'm going to look at this like a glass half full. 6 Pistons reached double digits. Paul Reed at 21-10. But they played without 4 of their starters. So to be there, to battle the way they did, push OKC as much as they did, kudos to them. 23 free throws for Detroit. They only made 12. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander himself had 25 free throw attempts. OKC's really good. Michigan's women's team is out. Texas beat them in the Elite Eight, 77-41. Justin Verlander gets roughed up in 3 2/3 innings. He allowed 5 runs, 6 hits, and 2 walks. He needed 28 pitches to get through the first inning, 80 pitches to get through 3 2/3, 9-6 the final. Arizona wins it. Corbin Carroll, who's a hell of a player, hits a 3-run homer and a triple. He's led the league in triples each of the last 2 years. Red Wings are back in action tonight against the Penguins, who were winners 8-3 over the Islanders last night. The Mitch Lions poll question of the day: who are you most excited to watch make their home debut? Kevin McGonigal, Justin Verlander, Tarek Skubal, or Kenley Jansen. Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I'll retweet it at Shep Matt, and we'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. We welcome your texts. Freddie, as always, helps us roll here on X's and Bros. He's a diehard. He says, did the Pistons already know they couldn't beat OKC without Cade and instead decided to sit their other guys? To me, that was just weird. No, there's legitimate reasons why Detroit did not play Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris and the like. All right. This is not, I don't think any team goes, well, let me take that back. I don't think this team goes into a situation and says, hey, listen, we got no shot tonight, so we're not playing you. No, it's not the way it works. Not with the Pistons. That's the wrong message to send. So there's no way they were doing that. There are certain legitimate reasons for just about every single player. All right. So I wouldn't even contemplate that. This is not one of those situations where Detroit is just like, hey, you know what, Jalen Duren, you got the right ankle problem. Don't worry about it. All right. Tobias Harris, you got a left hip. Duncan Robinson, you got a right hip. And we all know, why Isaiah Stewart's out. He's got the left calf, and then Cade Cunningham with the lung issue. Okay. So we want to get Chaz Lanier some minutes. I don't think so. I think they're no doubt being cautious. I would guess if that was the last game of the year and they're playing for a playoff spot, or you're playing to secure the number 1 seed, they play. I would guess if that's a playoff game, they play. If that's what you're referring to, Freddie. And thanks for the text. Always appreciate it. But I think one of those situations where, hey, let's be cautious. Rather be careful. You got a 4-game lead in the East and then lose a guy long-term. All right, long-term. Speaking of the Red Wings, long-term, what's it going to be like? Are they going to make the playoffs? How do they respond? Will they respond against Pittsburgh tonight? Pittsburgh playing on the tail end of a back-to-back after beating the Islanders last night. Todd McClelland has been befuddled by his team because his team, for some reason or another, can't seem to figure out that you got to start stronger than what you did against Philadelphia. Start stronger than what you did against Ottawa. Start stronger instead of laying back. Do what you did when you played Buffalo. It was a surprise to everybody. What was it, Friday night, Saturday night? I think it was Saturday night. Everybody was stunned. Oh, my gosh. You just beat the hottest team in the National Hockey League. You beat a team that's gunning for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. This should give you the recipe for moving forward. And instead, what do they do the next time out against Philadelphia? Crap the bed. Here's Todd McClelland on what is really irking him, befuddling him, and creating a problem with his team on why it can't gain any consistency and momentum. Listen to this.
Brain and the legs and the will all have to go together. If you're only using one and not the other, it doesn't work. And how do we fix it? Well, we address some of it in the video today, which is what we do even when we're playing really well. And then we put it into play in practice, and that's all fine and dandy, but we're going into April, and video and practice should just be polishing things up, and away you go. You shouldn't be trying to extract competitiveness or heaviness out of the players at this time. So, but we are, and we're capable of providing it, and we'll get a chance to do that starting tomorrow night.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to focus on the first part of that soundbite, and that is the fact that you shouldn't be having to deal with this stuff at this time of the year. But remember what he said afterwards too. He also said we're capable of doing this, which is dead on. That's conveniently left out. When you summarize that, you look at it and you're like, man, this coach, because he's had to do it more than once, this coach is getting a little tired of having to chide his players publicly and jump on them to reinforce what they feel or what he feels is the most important aspect about what is keeping this team from accomplishing what it's capable of. Think about how many times Todd McClelland has had to come out publicly and say something about his team. What does that tell you? And he's a straight shooter. That's what I love about him. What's it tell you? Think about the regimes that this team has not been good enough. Blashill had to do it. Lalonde had to do it, just didn't do it as often. And now McClelland's had to do it. You think it's the coaches? This is on the players. Stop telling us, I watched the Pistons last night. Maybe we should play like that. Stop feeding us we understand the sense of urgency. Go out and do it, and do it regularly. I think fans can understand losing once in a while. What they can't understand is how you start so slowly in so many key games against important teams that you're trying to catch or are trying to catch you and fail. It's ridiculous. Not quite as ridiculous what the NBA is dealing with. We'll explain when we come back here on X's and Bros. This hour of our program is proudly brought to you by our friends at Meijer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Okay, we have talked a little bit. Welcome back. We have talked a little bit about the NBA and some of the issues that they're having. Steve Kerr suggesting that they go from 82 to 72 games. Rick Carlisle suggesting the same. Mark Cuban telling everybody who will listen that they should go from 48 minutes to 40 minutes. Do what the WNBA does. Do what college basketball does. Don't lead the way, follow the way. That's what the NBA. Yesterday, more hot water for the league because former Piston, Jaden Ivey, was let loose by the Chicago Bulls. He was released. Why? Because of this. Listen. Do we not have that? Well, Jaden Ivey was let go because of conduct detrimental to the team. All right. He went on Instagram, had I think it was close to an hour. I didn't listen to the whole thing. But some of it was some anti-LGBTQ sentiments, which doesn't sit well in today's world, obviously. He had other remarks too. He did not agree with the league celebrating Pride Month, okay, which is going to get you in some trouble. I'm not saying it shouldn't. I get it. But he was let go. And here's what the league has got to deal with now. The league has got to deal with the comparisons. We talk about anytime somebody is drafted that they're going to be compared to another player. You could have had this coach. You chose not to. They're going to get compared to what that coach has done. I mean, there's a vicious NFL cycle right now, right? So a lot of that is happening. Why didn't we get this guy instead of this guy? And the same thing anytime you sign a free agent. Why didn't you go all in for Tyler Linderbaum? We had to settle for Cade Mays. People are going to see how well Tyler Linderbaum does for the Las Vegas Raiders compared to Cade Mays for the Detroit Lions. So there's a constant comparison. I get that. Same thing in repercussions. The NBA felt like or the Chicago Bulls specifically, there should be repercussions for what Jaden Ivey said on his personal account. This is him, not in the Bulls facility, not on an NBA court, not at a press conference. This is him on his personal Instagram account. There are guys in the NBA who have gotten caught with guns, drugs, beating girlfriends, beating spouses, still on a roster. There are NBA players who have made political messages, pushed for a certain cause, and yet Jaden Ivey with his Christian message gets waived. Steve Kerr has gone out, falsely accused a government agency. Steve Kerr constantly takes the podium and turns them into political speeches with the NBA logo behind him. Greg Popovich used to do the same thing. Called certain leaders after some of the most vile people the history has ever had. Kevin Porter currently plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. 6 years ago was arrested, crashed his car. Police find a loaded handgun and marijuana in his car. 3 years ago, that same player was arrested in New York City, felony charges, second-degree assault, strangulation after an alleged domestic violence attack on his girlfriend who played in the WNBA. Later, reports described her injuries as a fractured neck vertebra, a cut above her eye that required stitches. She had to flee a hotel hallway covered in blood to escape more attacks. No problem with Kevin Porter Jr.'s behavior, right? Miles Bridges, criminally charged. Multiple felony accounts, domestic violence, child abuse, after allegedly assaulting the mother of the children. Gets a 30-game suspension. Remained on the team, by the way. Okay. Jaden Ivey speaks out about something that is against his religion, whether you like it or not, because back in the day, Chris Jackson, Mahad Rauf, didn't stand for the national anthem. It was his choice because of his religion. It was acceptable. Jaden Ivey speaks out against something that is against his religion. It's not acceptable. He gets waived. These are the things that the NBA is facing right now. And by the way, those are just two examples. I'm just giving you a couple of examples. Michael Porter Jr. is one of the guys that Pistons fans all said, I want him here. Let's trade for him. It's never important until that guy can actually put the ball in the hoop. And then it's, well, let's overlook it. We've seen guys, video of guys dragging women by their hair. Hi, Kareem Hunt, in the NFL. Still playing the game. Ain't nothing but a thing, right? I do wonder if something like this had happened to a guy who was pumping in 25 points a game. Travion Henderson, outstanding running back for the Patriots a year ago. Big reason for their success, right? As a rookie out of Ohio State. Went out and supported Jaden Ivey by, to a certain extent, by either tweeting out or putting on Instagram a lot of various psalms from the Bible that support Jaden Ivey. And now people want him gone. They want the Patriots to waive him. Where is the quote-unquote freedom of speech? Apparently it's lost. At least in the NBA it is. Apparently it's lost. It's another bad look for this league right now. There's a lot of people afraid to touch it. There's a lot of people afraid to talk about it. And we can't be. I'm not saying it's right. There's a lot of things people say that you and I disagree with, but I think we would both be on the same page. They have the right to say it. This obviously sits not very well with Billy Donovan and the Bulls and the NBA in general. So he has talked openly about how he used to be what he called, a sinner, and how he slept around, drank a lot, did various things that many people associate with athletes or rock and rollers or entertainers and things like that, right? And he said now he's different. He's a completely different person. And he wants people to know that. There's more and more people speaking out about it. The question is, what are the repercussions? In this case, he's lost his job. And you know damn well, here's what happens. If somebody else picks him up, if somebody else takes a chance on him, you know what the first thing that reporters are going to talk about, they're going to write about, is this. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. Text us, Sports Radio 21,000. This is a Tullymore Tuesday, and we're brought to you by Meijer.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now, they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also, Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Okay, 35 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. Always appreciate the time. Phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. The text line is Sports Radio 21,000 via text. Shep, we don't talk sports anymore. We talk about everything off the court, field, and ice now. Well, I think that's not true, at least on this show. We primarily talk about what is on the field of play. We've talked about already this morning. We've talked about the Pistons and the fight that they've shown against OKC, even though they were without 4 starters. We talked about the struggles of Verlander last night. I mean, you could talk about another throwing error from Javier Baez for crying out loud. I had somebody text me last night about, that one really awesome play that he made. He's spectacular. I'm like, spectacular? He's made 2 throwing errors already. This is game 4. What are you talking about? Shep, when are we going to get back to This Week in Baseball? Mel Allen, he talked about the games and great plays. He did it on TV. Didn't do it on radio. That's number 1. Number 2. Here's the one of the things in Detroit, what we're talking about. There are the things in the state of Michigan that are important. Not necessarily in this order. The Final Four, that we'll get into at 8 o'clock. And we've got a few more days to get there. But the Final Four, the Pistons struggling from the free throw line last night, but playing without 4 starters and pushing OKC, the best team in basketball, into overtime. The Tigers losing to Arizona last night, getting behind 8-0, and Justin Verlander struggling. All right. And Dan Campbell's thoughts from the NFL meetings in Arizona, which we're about to get into. Those are the things that people are talking about. Nationally, people are probably talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and getting to the free throw line 25 times. They are probably talking about the NFL, and they are probably talking about Jaden Ivey. So that's what we're covering a little bit today. Now, speaking of Dan Campbell is with all the other coaches at these NFL meetings. And by the way, speaking of coaches, Mike Williams, the Grand Valley State women's head basketball coach, will join us at 8:35. Why? Because he's won national championships in back-to-back years. Why? Because he was 38-1. Why? Because he blew out Indiana, Pennsylvania in the championship game by 29 and held them to 31% shooting. Because he closed the year at 15 wins in a row. Because he's got a winning percentage of close to 90% in his career in Allendale. He's going to join us at 8:35. All right. But Dan Campbell has come out and talked about a lot of different things when it comes to what he expects of his team this coming season. This is the brilliance of the National Football League. It is constantly in the news. Think about it. A lot of people are going to be talking about, in every NFL market, talking about what their coaches had to say over the last day or two. You've had the general managers meetings. You've had the owners meetings. So Rod Wood had a conversation with Dave Burkett of the Free Press. People talked about it, including us yesterday. Dan Campbell today. You've got the draft coming up less than a month away. That's going to be talked about. The whole buildup. And then it's camps and so on and so forth. They stay in the public consciousness. But Dan Campbell addressed the media as part of the NFL's annual league meetings on the first day as he gets ready for year number 6. He talked about Terrion Arnold. He talked about the possibility of new leaders being born here in Detroit because guys like Khalif Raymond and David Montgomery and Graham Glasgow and Alex Anzalone are gone. Taylor Decker gone. So a chance for others to help lead the way. He's talked about Drew Petzing. He's talked about his defense and how he and Calvin Shepard got to get on the same page where certain guys fit, right? Let's start with his thoughts on the defense because let's face it, most people thought this team underachieved defensively a year ago. They worried about Calvin Shepard's ability to be the defensive coordinator. Whether you think that's true or not, a lot has been made of Ben Johnson moving on. Well, not as much made of Aaron Glenn. Why? Because Ben Johnson was successful in Chicago and Aaron Glenn was putrid in New York. But Dan Campbell and Kelvin Shepard got together and have been getting together to talk about where their defense needs to go. This is Dan Campbell on the vision of what his defense will be in 2026.
There's so many things that you take in. You're like, all right, what did we do well? What did we not? Where do we go from here? This is who we lost. Here's some pieces that we added. What do we need? And so really the way Shep's done it, which I love, is we've kind of these three options a little bit. It's still us, but it gives us, depending on who the other end is, okay, we got Wanham. Do we draft somebody? All right, what does it look like? Are we more this 4 down? Do we become more 5 down? Do we become more nickel, depending on? So we've got some flexibility here ready. Like it's already built into the install for Shep.
Some good stuff in there. So a lot of just word salad to a certain extent too. They better draft a defensive end because they don't really have a one. Most people look at Peyton Turner and DJ Wanham as a 3 and a 2 respectively. So you sure hope they address that situation. No offense to Dan Campbell, but ask yourself this. Is any defensive coordinator going into an offseason not thinking about the different ways his team can be successful if they're not doing – you don't want to do the same thing every time. You understand what your base is, okay? Last year, Detroit played more 3 linebackers than anybody else in the National Football League. So if you have to adjust from that because all you have is Jack Campbell and you have Derek Barnes and you're not going to start Malcolm Rodriguez, you haven't drafted a linebacker yet and all this other stuff, and there are certain guys who are special teams guys but aren't going to be starters on this team unless they're in need. Are you going to go 5? Are you going to go nickel, 5 down, and then you're going to go nickel? Instead of 4 down and 3, are you going to go 5 and 2? Are you going to play more nickel? I would guess every defensive coordinator has that option and that ability. It's just whether or not the tendency is going to be greater with one specific base defense that you play. So I don't think there's anything special there. It's nice to know that they're talking. If they weren't talking, you'd be seriously concerned. Speaking of concern, Drew Petzing was a concern when they first hired him, at least from a fan perspective. Why? Because he comes from Arizona, who stinks, and his head coach just got fired, and Kyler Murray wasn't very successful. And let's be honest, in all fairness to everybody out there, how many offensive coordinators do you truly know? Not many. Drew Petzing was not a name that was on your radar. You knew Mike Kafka because Mike Kafka and the Giants were at Ford Field. They pulled a trick play with Jameis Winston scoring a touchdown and shedding, would-be tacklers down the left sideline. And he was a guy who was interviewing for head coaching jobs. That made you feel pretty good. Hey, you know what? If we interview this guy, he becomes our offensive coordinator. He was on some people's short list for head coach. That means somebody likes what he does. Somebody's got an idea that this guy can coach. So you felt better about that. But Petzing is technically the OC, Kafka the passing coordinator. Here's what Dan Campbell had to say about Drew Petzing, the relationship, and where he sees his offense going.
I said, hey, listen, tell me if there's something that I need to know. I'm like, don't get something on your mind or something you want to do. I need to know it from you. He's like, all right. And he tells me, I said, I don't like that. And he says, okay, no problem. We'll do this. I said, and it's nothing like we've been, but my point is this guy is, he adjusts. He's in the flow. Nothing throws him off. He's ready to adapt, adjust, whatever you want, whatever you need. We're going to make it work. We're going to maximize this. So he's been great, man. It's been good.
Okay. Again, how much are we really taking from that soundbite? It's deeper than that. I understand that, but for radio purposes, we have to have a certain amount. The whole he's ready to adjust. I don't like that. Is that unique? No. It's not unique at all. And let me be fair here. I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud. Let me be fair. I don't know what he could say right now that would make me feel better about going into the season or going into pre-draft season with the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to be fair to Dan Campbell here. How is he going to impress upon us that Drew Petzing was the right choice? There's really nothing he can say. There isn't. We can read all the articles we want. We can hear players talk about him. We can see Dan Campbell talk about him. We can hear Brad Holmes talk about him. What is really going to make the difference is when that team takes the field and starts playing on Sundays or Wednesdays or Thursdays or Saturdays, whenever the NFL decides to play an 18-game schedule. One more year of 17 games. Anyway, that's the whole deal. So in fairness to Dan Campbell and the Lions in general, it's really hard to impress upon us that, yes, this was the right choice because he actually heard me say, I don't like that. That's okay. We can do it a different way. Every head coach in the National Football League at one point or another is telling their OC and or their DC, I don't like that. And that player, or I should say that coach, then has to adjust to the players to do it a different way. You see what I'm saying? This is not earth-shattering here information that Dan Campbell's giving us. One more, and this might be the most important, on where his team is at. You and I both feel, look, it's not a finished product. They have 9 draft picks. All right? 9 draft picks. In order to get that, in order for this team to get back to where we think it should be and where he wants it to be, they've got to pick up certain athletes at certain positions. So, Trent, we've got one more, right? One more with Dan Campbell? Oh, we don't have that. Okay. Dan Campbell was talking about where his team is at right now, what he likes and what he doesn't like about where his team is at right now. He's also talked about Penei Sewell and how he figures he's going to move. He likes him moving to left tackle. I mean, these are the takeaways from what Dan Campbell has said. Sewell at left tackle. Free agency, what it brought them is it brought them depth and it brought them youth. They're a little bit younger now, okay? Whether it be McCreary or Mays or Wanham or whomever, all right? They're a little bit younger than the people they lost. He wants to get the Lions' edge back, his words. How do you lose the edge? Like if you go 15-2 and you get upset at home by a rookie quarterback and you have as many turnovers as they have, how do you lose that edge the next year? So telling me that we've got to get our edge back tells me that something happened a year ago that caused you to lose the edge in the first place. I'd like to know what that was. How do you lose your edge when you're the only team that hasn't reached the Super Bowl? I know it's Houston, and I know it's Cleveland, and these are Jacksonville. They're expansion teams, okay? How do you lose that edge? That, to me, makes no sense. He and Kelvin Shepard want that flexibility to trot out 3 different defensive packages, as you heard earlier. Okay, great. Again, I think there's a lot of teams that have that flexibility. They're going to go, the percentages are always going to be with a team in a certain situation. You're always going to go play the majority of 4-3, but you're not always playing it. I'm using Detroit as an example. A year ago, the majority was a 4-3, okay? But it's not always going to be that way. You have to be flexible. You have to be flexible on offense, too. That is not anything new. And that's why I go back to, I'm not sure how much he really could have said that would make you and I say, okay, now I'm not quite as concerned. And maybe a lot of people aren't concerned at this time of the year anyway. Think about that for a second. I mean, you realize you have so much more that has to go your way. You have so much more for your team to realize that they can get better or they can get worse. All right, because injuries can take place. There can be disgruntledness, if you will, and you don't necessarily have to do that. So this team has a way of getting better through the draft. But as much as we love the drafting and developing of many of our young players, because we always heard that about the Tigers way back in the day, what we loved most about it, they drafted and developed. Look at the 2016. You sprinkle in a Kenny Rogers here, you sprinkle in this player there, and this is great. We loved it about the 2000 or the 1984 Tigers, of course. And I think a lot of people are they warming up to that idea with this year's Tigers, with Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and Kerry Carpenter and Kevin McGonigal, and guys who were drafted and developed, Parker Meadows and Dylan Dingler, Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize and guys like that? Perhaps. I mean, they've made the playoffs 2 years in a row, but there's a lot of people who feel like they've underachieved, including yours truly. With the Lions, it's almost a negative of the drafting and developing. A negative in this sense. Fans in general feel like, man, they are really pushing to keep these guys for an extended period of time when they don't necessarily have to, and they could be using that money to shore up a position or two to, quote unquote, go for it. And I think that's what Lions fans want an answer to. Even though Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, to a certain extent, have answered that question, we're trying to find out why. Why is it you're setting yourself up to extend Campbell, Branch, Laporta, and Gibbs when you don't have to worry about that right now? Worry about when it comes. The Lions' response is, this is how you save yourself some money. Did it early with St. Brown. Did it early with Joseph. Did it early with Goff. Did it early with Sewell. Did it early with Jameson Williams. Did it early with Hutchinson. Not as early with Goff, but did it early with Hutchinson. And look at how the market's exploded for all those positions. You want the answer to the defensive end. You want the answer to the number one corner. And you want the answer, and I get it, okay, to the safety in case both injured safeties can't play anymore or won't be ready for the start of the season. Phone number on the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. Text us, Sports Radio 21,000. When we come back, some say the national title game is Saturday night. Whoever wins that game ain't losing in the national title game. This is the reason why. We'll tell you when we return on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Tuesday, brought to you by Meijer after this.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
DraftKings Sportsbook is the number one sportsbook for live betting, and it's built for March. DraftKings Sportsbook is delivering the most generous rewards in the market. This isn't a tournament you bet and forget. It's one you react to. With DraftKings, the number one sportsbook for live betting, you're not betting what might happen. You're betting what's happening. Possession by possession, play by play, live lines, props, next play outcomes. As this March Madness chaos unfolds, the bracket will break. So don't just watch the unexpected. Why don't you bet on it? New to DraftKings? Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code HUGE. That code is HUGE. Turn $5 into 200 in bonus bets instantly in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility restrictions do apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.com/audio. This is a limited time offer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Final hour of the program. Glad you're with us here on X's and Bros. Thanks for taking time out of your Tullymore Tuesday here throughout the great state of Michigan. We are broadcasting throughout this great state in Cadillac, WKAD, then Ticket 93.7 FM in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo and Holland on WMAX 96.1 FM, The Game. In Petoskey and Charlevoix, WMBN 104.7 FM, The Ticket, Northern Michigan. In Lansing, WVFN AM 7:30 AM, The Game. In Traverse City, WKAD 93.7 FM, The Ticket. We stream live every day on YouTube, X, and on Facebook as well. I'm Matt Shepard. We always appreciate the time, and we welcome any thoughts you may have on anything we've discussed or something that might be just on your mind in the world of sports. It doesn't have to be something that we are specifically talking about. Oftentimes, you can steer the conversation, 866-838-4843, or the text line is Sports Radio 21,000. If you missed last night, Tigers lose to Arizona. Detroit was down 8-0. The final score ended up reading 9-6. Corbin Carroll, a 3-run homer, an RBI triple as well. Justin Verlander really struggled in 3 2/3. It's his first start. Okay. Remember last year for the Giants, he started out of the gate in awful fashion, ended up reeling it in a little bit. He admits afterwards, I've got to be better. No kidding, but okay, it's a start. Players are going to have bad starts, bad at-bats, bad games. I'm not too worried about it right now, all right? It's 4 games deep. Let's be careful. Let's not get too hyperbolic when it comes to this. Casey Mize gets the call in game 2 tonight. Pistons, despite not having 4 starters, pushed OKC to overtime, ended up losing 114-110. Paul Reed did have a double-double, 21 points, 10 rebounds. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led everybody with 47. Michigan women's season is over after Texas beat them in the Elite Eight, 77-41. That was never competitive. The Red Wings are back on ice tonight against the Penguins in Pittsburgh. Keep an eye on Boston hosting Dallas and Columbus hosting Carolina, especially the latter. Detroit trying to catch Columbus for the final wild card spot in the East, and they're running out of time. The Mitch Lineswell poll question: what are you most excited to watch make their home debut? Who are you most excited to watch make their home debut? Kevin McGonigal, Justin Verlander, Kenley Jansen, or Tarek Skubal? Only because it might be Skubal's last home opener. There's so much speculation out there right now. It's way too premature, but many people already have him going to the Mets. Wouldn't surprise us, probably, right? Anyway, you can vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I'll retweet it at Shep Madden. We'll give you the results tomorrow. Right around this time. The Final Four is set. You're well aware of that. The Big Ten makes up half the Frozen Four, Michigan and Wisconsin, and half the Final Four, Michigan and Illinois. The first game on Saturday night will be UConn against Illinois. I don't think people are surprised that UConn is there. There's no question, absolutely no question, which team had the toughest slate to get there. Okay, in Indianapolis. The hardest route was by UConn. They had to beat Furman, a 15 seed. They had to beat UCLA, a 7 seed. They had to beat Michigan State, a 3 seed, and they had to beat the number 1 seed, Duke. Illinois' path was Penn, a 14 seed, VCU, an 11, Houston, which to me was a surprise that they beat Houston, a 2 seed, and then Iowa, a 9 seed. Michigan beat a 16, a 9 in St. Louis, a 4 and a 6, Alabama and Tennessee, respectively. Arizona beat a 16, a 9, a 4 and a 2, the 9 of Utah State, Arkansas 4, Purdue a 2. All right? So UConn by far, and you would have expected that because I think before when the brackets were released, what did we say? We said, like a lot of people, the East region was the most challenging. Duke, UConn, Michigan State. They had St. John's was the 5. They had a lot of really tough teams in that region. And you earn it by getting out of there. You have to beat Michigan State and Duke in back-to-back games. that had to be mentally and physically draining. So kudos to them. When you start to hear people talk about UConn, oh, they're really not that good, just remind them, please, of the path they had to take to get there. That is not easy. And ask them, do yourself a favor, ask them this. Which did you think was the toughest bracket going in? I'll guarantee you, most people thought the East. Again, it was Duke, it's UConn, it's Michigan State. Who was the 4? Kansas was the 4. 5 was St. John's. You didn't get much of a breathe. Hell, even Louisville was the 6th. They lost to South Florida, but that's still a hell of a challenge right there. So you ask them that, you say, what was the hardest? Well, definitely that was, if that team comes out of it, how did they not earn it? How do you not respect it? Right? And yet, most people, including yours truly, feel like the championship game is really the late game. Arizona and Michigan. Why is that? Because both teams have won all their games by double digits. That's part of the reason. Their size, their depth, their length, their guard play also help. All right? Elliot Kajus played really well for Michigan. Arizona beat Long Island by 34. They turned around, beat Utah State by 12, blew out Arkansas by 21. And that was, for some people, a little bit of a chic pick because they love what John Calipari was doing there. They love the push, the pace, and let's face it, the SEC, right? Arizona, sure, they handled that. They beat the Big Ten tournament champion Purdue Boilermakers by 15. Need a little bit of kick in the ass in the second half. That's where coaches went in and said, you know what, we're going to leave you guys. You guys handle it at halftime. They left. Players handled the locker room, came out, did what they did against Purdue, and beat the tar out of them. Michigan's point differential. So all those games, a plus 34. Let's add this up because I haven't done this. All right. So you're looking at a team that wins by 34, 12, 21, and 15. So a total 82 points divided by 4, not real difficult. Their average margin of victory is 20.5. Michigan has won. They beat Howard by 21. They blew out St. Louis by 23. Beat Alabama by 13. And blowtorched Tennessee by 33. The difference there, 90 points. So Michigan is winning by average of 22.5 points per game. That's part of the reason I think a lot of people feel like that will be your national championship game. Speaking of national champions, Grand Valley State's women's team won again. They won it all in Pittsburgh over the weekend. Mike Williams is their head coach. He's going to join us at 8:35. Excited about this because he's going to get a chance to brag about his team, and rightfully so. At 38 up, 1 down. They lost 1 game, 1 conference game. Won the GLIAC again. He's been doing this for 11 years at that school, and he's got some big-time players leaving, but what a resume they have put together. He joins us at 8:35. We give you the final results from yesterday's poll question and what you love most about this Pistons push, okay? One of the specific numbers or statistics that you can grab onto and tell you why you think this team can go deep. We'll talk about that when we come back here on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Tuesday, and we're brought to you by Avello Airlines of veloair.com.
It's time to go on the court with Tim Stout. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That's code HUGE only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The final chapter now has been written in Michigan State's basketball season for 25-26, 27 wins, 8 losses. The Spartans did make it to a Sweet 16 appearance, just not enough to overcome a poor first half against Connecticut and the season coming to an end. But that's a 57-15 record over 2 years, since the Spartans' 5 seniors were part of a 30-7 record a year ago before losing in the Elite 8 game to Auburn. What's the future look like? Tom Izzo will be back for his 32nd year as head coach. He loses at least 5 seniors who have run out of eligibility, led by Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler. Now it's time to reshape the roster for another year moving ahead.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
18 after the hour. Welcome back. I'm sure people are aware of this. We haven't really touched on it much. The NFL referees, the National Football League is getting ready, training Division 1, 2, and 3 refs to become referees during the season. Do you know how much a referee makes on average? $350,000 per season. Okay. The NFL wants to give them a 6.5% raise, I think it is. 6.5%. The refs want 10%. I don't suppose negotiations can be too hard. If one believes it's 6.5 and one is at 10, can you come up a little bit? Can you go down? How about 8? Can we do that? 8.25. Let's split it. 8.25. The league wants more accountability. So they want some off-season training for some poor performances. Everybody gets graded. Refs don't want that. The union, the National Football League Referees Union, wants refs based on seniority to receive promotions, or you get the plum assignments. The National Football League, and you know how I feel about Roger Goodell, right? I mean, if you've listened to this show long enough, not a fan at all. I think he's a phony. All right, but he makes the owners a lot of money. The National Football League wants it based on performance. It should be performance based. What am I missing here? What is wrong with that? Shouldn't we all be based on performance and what you're doing? You want more than you're probably worth, since it's not an easy job. But holy crap, I mean, time and time again, we've seen it. They should get closer to what Major League Baseball is doing. I didn't like the ABS system, but you know what it's doing? It's creating a pathway for us to recognize who's good and who's bad at what they do. Some it's pretty obvious. It's been obvious for a while. So they don't want any accountability for poor performances. They want playoff assignments based on how long you've been doing it, whether you've been doing it well or not. They want how long you've been doing it rather than how good you are. Not making a lot of people support you. I'm speaking to the NFL. I don't know if you saw this, Hard Knocks, which is something that's never going to get old. This summer, 2026, Seattle Seahawks. Following summer, New England Patriots. That's what you get. Not bad. You can live with that, right? I would think so. Here's another question I have for you. And then we'll get into the final results of the poll question, okay? And a quick thought on the Pistons. We were talking about the Red Wings earlier. Todd McClellan, we played that sound for, what he said to the media the other day as they get ready for Pittsburgh, and how you got too many jerseys. Guys are just putting on jerseys. I hope he's saying that to them as well. I don't see why he wouldn't, quite honestly. Have we not recognized? I mean, there's going to be some guys, they can't continue to put on a Red Wing sweater, all right? Especially if they don't make the playoffs. There's too many times where Todd McClellan has had to come out and tell everybody who will listen, we got too many hangers on, all right? Personally, I'd love to see them get benched or not dress and bring up somebody who is supposedly so good you can't part with them at the trade deadline. Steve Yzerman's been very conservative the last 2 years, specifically this year. He didn't do anything last year. Don't give me Peter Mrazek for crying out loud. Way too conservative this year. Here's what some people wonder. Leadership. What do we always hear from coaches? We hear that the best teams are players-led, right? Players own the locker room. They lead the way. Not coaches leading the way. It's players leading the way. Dylan Larkin's the captain of this team. Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider are assistant captains. On paper, that seems really good. We've heard nothing but great things about those players. Think about it for a minute. Sider played more minutes than anybody in the Olympics until Germany was eliminated. But game for game, he played more minutes than anybody. Lucas Raymond was among the leading scorers game per game, okay? For the total number of games he played and anybody else, he was one of the leading scorers in the Olympics. And what did everybody say about Dylan Larkin? He was the heartbeat of Team USA that won gold. How much better can you get than that type of leadership? I can't imagine it. Sider was an assistant captain for Germany. He's an assistant captain for Detroit. Lucas Raymond was an assistant captain for Sweden. He's an assistant captain for Detroit. Dylan Larkin's the captain of the Wings, played in some key situations, and even players on his own team said, that dude, we went as that guy went. You would guess that's really good leadership, right? What is missing? Maybe we just can't put it's not the coaching. Don't give me coaching, okay? Todd McClellan's a really good coach. He's won at the highest level. He's got a slew of wins. He knows what it takes to win a cup. Stop. Because you blamed Jeff Blashill, you blamed Derek Lalonde, and now you're going to blame the coach again? What's the common denominator? The general manager? Yep. And some of the players. Some. I like the leadership of the Red Wings. But, and I really respected Dylan Larkin when he said a year ago that he didn't think the front office did enough. Maybe the players aren't doing enough either. I hope right now he's looking at his room and he's willing to say to his players what he said about his general manager to the media a year ago. That's my hope. I'm not saying he's not a good captain. I think he is. I think it took guts what he did a year ago. Some may not agree with it. That's fine. I think it took guts. It also takes guts to stand in front of your team, shut the door, tell the coaches to get out and tell everybody, look, I don't know about you. I'm tired of missing the playoffs. I've only played in one in my career. Falling down in March for a third consecutive year is not acceptable. We've got to do something about it. And those who aren't playing and they aren't pulling their weight, then get them the hell out of here. This is what I love most about the Pistons push. Despite being the best defensive team, and we talked earlier about what their Achilles heel is, and it's the three-point shooting. Despite not having that three-point shooting prowess, their defense, as we all know, has been incredible. Second in the league in defensive efficiency. Here's the other thing I love about them. They don't foul. Unless it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, where he goes to the line 25 times, more than the entire Pistons team in one night. And I know you're going to talk about the 89 and 90 championship team. You're going to talk about the going to work Pistons and their defense too. And that's a carrying a tradition. That's fine. Great. It's true. But when you look at what this team does, leading the league, at least going into the game last night, leading the league in fouls per game at 22 per game, best in the NBA. That bodes really well. Let's hope it continues that way because the league will be put on notice by Detroiters, and I hope anybody else who follows the NBA closely, they'll be put on notice knowing that this team, over an 82-game slate, was this good. If it changes in the playoffs, they either have a problem with the regular season reffing or a problem in the postseason officiating. When we come back, speaking of basketball, a national champion joins us. Mike Williams. His team has won back-to-back Division II women's basketball national champions. He deserves a pat on the back. That team deserves some recognition. We'll give it to him on X's and Bros when we return, brought to you by Avello Airlines.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Avelo Air knows how much you love the Tigers. They love them too. They want to help you get to spring training in Lakeland because it is an awesome time. They fly nonstop from Grand Rapids to Lakeland Thursdays and Sundays, and nonstop from Detroit to Lakeland Wednesdays and Saturdays. Everyday low fares and reliable service. You don't want to fly anywhere else. Book your trip to Lakeland on AveloAir.com and use the promo code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare when you book by March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at FreddyThePizzaMan.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit FreddyThePizzaMan.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI, thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the Huge Show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Okay, 35 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 10. Thanks for being with us. We're excited to talk about a national champion in this state of ours. It's a second straight year. There have been times this season where we've done, or this year, I should say, where we've done some shows and people have texted us and said, hey, listen, don't forget about what Grand Valley's women are doing. And they just won a second national championship. They didn't just win it. They steamrolled Indiana, Pennsylvania by 29. Mike Williams is their head coach. He's an outstanding coach. It's pretty obvious, not just because you win a national championship, but because of what he has done. Going into the year, his winning percentage was at 85%. He only lost one game all year long. You're winning 90% of your games. You're doing more than just X's and O's. You're doing all the other little things right when it comes to coaching. And the coach, Mike Williams, the national champion to the two years in a row, national champion. Mike Williams joins us here on X's and Bros. Coach, thanks for the time. Congratulations, man. How does it feel?
It's a little bit surreal, and our situation is probably a little unique than most because we played in the exact same city and venue both years. So we were in the same locker room, on the same bench, practiced at the same gyms off site, ate a lot of the same restaurants. So it was kind of surreal. It was like, is this happening or is this happening? But, it was all done. It was pretty cool. To think that our players were able to lose those 16 years and sustain what we did this year was really, really cool.
I always like to ask this of championship coaches. When did you know your team had this capability? But that's an unfair question to you because you had won it the year before. But a lot of people want to know, is it harder to win the second one in a row? You've done this before, but to win a second one in a row, knowing that you have that proverbial bullseye on your back and all those cliches that we in the media like to use. What do you think the biggest challenge was for your team this year, even though you went 38-1?
I think it was unique. I leaned on a couple people that had, either missed back-to-back or won back-to-back, asked them some questions. The big thing I think it was you just got to erase that and don't put pressure on yourself to win it again. Just you're a new season. Everything is new. You're different. Mm-hmm. You're new. Our seniors treated that way. They were like, we're a new team, a new season. We didn't really ever mention it. I don't think we really thought about it. And that's how we kind of went about our business. And I think we knew pretty early after we scrimmaged some really good mid-major teams and played some good teams, non-conference, and we could tell that we were a pretty talented team. Now, we're young, a little bit green, but we could tell we were pretty talented. I think pretty early on now. I mean, win it all, whatever that meant, we didn't know, but we knew we were pretty good.
Mike Williams is a national champion 2 years in a row at Grand Valley State. The women's team 38-1. They blew out their opponent in the national championship game, Indiana, Pennsylvania, by 29. Held them to 31% shooting. What's the DNA? What was the DNA of this team, and what's the DNA of Mike Williams-led coaching teams in general?
I think, number one, you got to have the type of talent to defend, and we did. That's kind of what we recruit. We like a little bit longer, athletic players, that can take away shots and not let people get downhill on you. Number two, it's getting the players to buy into the system. And sometimes it's tough because you want to score points, and it's not easy. It's not easy to defend and come down every possession and, grind it out for 24 seconds. Like they do, but they're willing to do that. And then I think it's, just making sure your staff is prepared for each team you play. There's always some little ins and outs that you got to be prepared for that teams do. And, to have that spot on and know how you're going to guard some of that stuff, I think is really key.
What iconic coach, no matter what sport, do you coach most like?
It's a good question. You try to emulate, I guess, you watch coaches coach and you like to see coaches that do things, but, I don't know. That's a good question. I think you watch people on TV, and I've always liked, the calm coaches. I don't think I coach that way. But Tony Dungy, John Wooden. I played for a guy named Dick Bennett when I was at Wisconsin Stevens Point, who coached at Wisconsin and Washington State. But
yeah,
you kind of morph in your own way, and you kind of change and adapt as you grow. I think in 43 years of coaching, you have to change and evolve, and I think that I've been able to do that, especially later on in my career. It's kind of I think calm down a little bit more and not put pressure on their players to make every play.
The big debate, I think, in sports today with coaching is how hard can you push players? We've seen success in the NCAA tournament this year with coaching styles of Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, Danny Hurley. They're not afraid to push their players. We've seen it in football plenty. Mike Vrabel, for example, Sean Payton, for example. Todd McClellan, the head coach of the Red Wings, is not afraid to call his players out. What are the pros and cons of that style, and how accepting are athletes today of that style in your mind?
Well, if you look on our side of the game and you look at the teams in the Final Four, you look at Gino and Don Staley, and then I forget Texas's coach. He's been Vince Schaefer. I think they create high expectations, and then there's different ways to get there. And I think players like expectations. I think players like to be coached. Not necessarily like you say held accountable, but I think they want high expectations, and they want you to, do the things necessary to get them there. Now, I don't think that, berating players or demeaning players, like sometimes you think of some of the coaches of the past, they think that's where you go. The coaches, they don't mind being coached, if you want to say coach hard, and no problem with that. They just want you to be sincere. They don't want you to be demeaning. They want to know, what it's going to take to get you there. But, I again, look in the women's game, you're looking at Final Four, even Corey Close at UCLA does a tremendous job. Those are 4 great role models of coaches. And obviously they've had success. But, I think that players haven't changed. They haven't. The student athlete has not changed. I think coaches have had to evolve a little bit, and I think it's been for the better.
Grand Valley State's the national champion. The women's basketball coach, Mike Williams, joining us here on X's and Bros. You have 5 players graduating. They leave with 5 conference titles, 4 conference tournament championships, 3 regional crowns, 3 trips to the Final Four, and 2 national championships. How much do you appreciate what they brought to your program?
Well, it's been the last 2 years, losing 6 the previous year, and now 5 you're going to lose this year. There's 11 just high-character seniors. But, basketball-wise, you lose a very talented group that was really bought in, and was one together in a mission. And so you're going to miss that. And then you miss who they are as people off the court and the things that they've done, and their high character and the togetherness and the love they have for each other. And you see that throughout the journey. And obviously, winning creates a lot of that. When you're winning and having success, that it creates a lot of stuff. But you're going to miss it. And every year you start again and think, okay, who's going to take these 5 players' place? Who's going to do that? You're wondering, not that who's the players coming behind you aren't capable. They just haven't been in that position. So you, as a coach, say, all right, who's going to do this? Someone going to be able to do this? Are they going to be able to lead like these other seniors are? And eventually somebody steps up and they find a way. But it's a tough deal to see them. But you know what? They come around. 4 of them from last year with the national championship game. So they're special people, and you're going to obviously miss them a great deal.
Yeah, that's a big hit, man. You lose 5 this year, 6 the year before. That is so challenging to overcome. But I know you accept and embrace that type of challenge. Coaches, I've always found in dealing with them, they get so wrapped up in the game-to-game, the day-to-day preparation for their teams that they don't really get an opportunity to sit back and enjoy what they've accomplished because they're always setting the goal for what's next. How were you, if at all, able to enjoy another championship, and how long do you get to, kind of marinate in it, if you will?
They're great questions. A lot of really good questions here. You know, you don't enjoy it. You never enjoy it enough. You don't, and that's just the way it is. It's just the nature of the beast. But I thought the last couple years, our staff has enjoyed it more than they have in the past. And I think the players have they've forced that on us, the way they are, who they are. You know, they're like, Coach, man, we're all in. We're willing to do what it takes, and we're all in, but we want to enjoy this. You know what? And it's like, okay, you get that message from them, like, you know what? You need to enjoy it. And even when you lose a game in the middle of the season, it's not the end of the world. You know, okay, let's learn from it. Let's move on. And, you know, I think I got a little etchy when we lost that game and probably started putting too much pressure on them. And then they came to me and said, Coach, you got to ease up a little bit. And so I think by listening to your players, by, you know, just little things you do to enjoy the journey, but you don't, it's hard to do. But I think this last couple of years, we've done a better job of that. And then I wake up at 4 a.m, the day after the national championship win, I'm thinking, okay, what about next year? And you got to be careful of that too. Okay, what's next? You need the what's next, but there's also, like you said, a period of you got to relax a little bit and enjoy it. So, yeah, it's a great question.
In working with John Beilein as long as I did at the University of Michigan while calling their games, I remember he used to tell me he recruited parents as much as he recruited kids. Do you subscribe to that philosophy? And if so, why?
Yeah, I had a chance to, of course, deal with Beilein a lot. I was on the women's staff there for 4 years when he was there, so I talked to him quite a lot. And you know, I think that you certainly do recruit families. You do, and you know, there's players that fit your style, not necessarily not the ones that don't fit your style good enough, or the ones here are really good, but they kind of fit what you want to be done. So you can recruit that. And there's times when, you know, maybe players aren't quite fit your style, but they morph into that. But I think that is true. I think your culture is big. We talked a couple times on in some interviews about how it's not always what you're doing sometimes for the program, but it's what you're not doing. You're not pulling away from the program because you've got so many people with your players, your parents, your support people that, you know, you kind of need them on board because any little thing can kind of create some turmoil in your program. And so, you know, I talked about it on 3 occasions during this run, how our parents they were locked in. They were as good as any parents we've had, and families that we've had at Grand Valley since I've been. And not that the ones in the past weren't great, but it's a big deal. It really is. There's no question that, you know, Beilein's right. And yes, it makes a big difference.
Couple more with Mike Williams, the two-time defending national champion Grand Valley State women's basketball coach. When you see this team moving forward, every team you're teaching, you're helping them grow into young women and get ready for life. What have they taught you? How have you grown?
Yeah. You know, I think that they've taught me that, you know, basketball isn't as important as I think it is. You know, I think they've taught me to enjoy the moment more, enjoy the journey. We read a book this year called The Twin Thieves. It really dug into that a little bit. We kind of used that early on as a guide to this season, and I thought that was really good. You know, and I think they taught me there's different ways to coach. You know, how to coach players and talk to players, and it made me realize more that, you know, these players, they're at their best when they're confident. You know, you got to be confident. You do. And if they're, you know, what I say, if you're willing to, you know, buy into what we're doing, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to play together, then that last step is you got to be confident in what you do. If you're not confident, you're going to be successful. So I think these last 2 years it's funny, but I've said this all along. That's the least amount of coaching I've done is the last 2 years. It's the most successful we've done. Is it I'm not a very good coach, or we begin to understand that these players, these assistant coaches, when they have more input and they're confident, your team is a lot better.
Or you're an excellent coach because you recognize it. So there's part of that. Last thing for you. No Division III football program in the country has won more than Grand Valley. And yet you've got 3 rings in your program. You've got back-to-back championships, and you've won 90% of your games. Is Grand Valley now a basketball school, or does it really matter to you?
We're getting there. I'll tell you, it's a great product. And you look at, we're going to renovate. We're going to put $4 million in our arena this year with cheerbacks and suites and all that to try to spice that up. We've had great success in men's basketball. Great success in the NCAA tournament this year. Winning a game, a fluke play away from maybe getting the Elite Eight. So I think it's, and there was, and Coach Wesley had some success in the past at the 2 Elite Eights, but I think is it a basketball school? I'll tell you, we're making a push. It's a school for every sport. There's no question. All our sports are so successful, but I think we've got basketball on the map. We want people to identify with that. We'd like to see people out and enjoying the product that we have put on the floor.
Mike Williams, you've represented the state and the school exceptionally well. Congratulations on great success. We hope we can talk again soon. Keep up the great work and try to enjoy it a little bit. Enjoy your off season if there is such a thing for you. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Some really great thoughtful questions, and enjoyed being on. Thank you very much.
You bet. Anytime, because you deserve it, and so does your program. Mike Williams, the head coach of Grand Valley State women's basketball. They are defending national champions. It didn't matter that they had that proverbial bullseye on their back. They went out there and they took it, and they were the best by far in the nation. Let's get to the final results of yesterday's poll question. We asked you this. The Big Ten will win the men's basketball national title, so it's either Illinois or Michigan, win the hockey national championship, it's either Michigan or Wisconsin, will win both, or will win neither. What were the final results?
63% said yes to both. No surprise there. Big Ten country up here. 19% said neither. Probably Michigan State fans. 10% said yes in men's hoops, and 8% said yes in hockey.
Okay. I do wonder how many people follow college hockey prior to this point. Probably not many. But thank you for participating in the poll question. We've got another poll question out there right now. We encourage you to vote on it. Who are you most excited to watch make their home debut? Kevin McGonigal, Justin Verlander, Tarek Skubal, or Kenley Jansen? Verlander struggled last night. McGonigal got on base with a couple of walks, but went 0 for 2 and scored